Hi, my name is Jerry Wise. I'm a relationship expert. I am a self-specialist, and I'm the director of the Center for Self-Differentiation in Indianapolis, Indiana, Carmel, Indiana. This video is entitled, How to Lose a Narcissist in 10 Days. Certainly the title is oversimplified. Certainly there can be many very complex situations in which we find ourselves, in which we're in a relationship with a narcissist, such as a boyfriend or girlfriend, or parents, or children, or any number of caregivers, friends, people around us. So there are lots of different types of relationships. And as you probably know, or surmise, that there are lots of different types of narcissists. This particular video, we're going to concentrate on more of the less toxic and less malignant narcissist, because I think that takes a little more specialized work when you're trying to leave a malignant narcissist who is abusive or stalking and doing all kinds of even criminal acts to keep you within their sphere of influence. But I still think these things would apply to almost anyone who's wanting to lose a narcissist. And I think in a nutshell, the best way to lose a narcissist is to find yourself. If you find yourself, a narcissist will not want you, a narcissist will not want to be with you, a narcissist will not be able to tolerate you. So that's one of the quickest ways, and I think the best ways. It's also the long-term goal for recovery. When we have been in a relationship with a narcissist, or we've been an adult child of a narcissist, and we're needing to recover as adults, and we grew up in a narcissistic home. So the very first thing I would suggest is, no contact, or if anything, limited contact, but no contact with the narcissist. And we want to first get out of the mirror, because we're in their mirror when we're always within their sphere of influence. And so we want to remove ourselves from the mirror. And again, for different narcissists, that may be easier or difficult depending upon their pathology and their difficulty and their personality disorder and their type of narcissism. I think second of all, since we have lacked self, and that's why we've gotten into a relationship with a narcissist, we lack self because we grew up in a narcissistic home, oftentimes if we're trying to recover. Also, if we've grown up with a narcissistic parent, it's not so unusual for us to grow up and fall in love with a narcissist. Also, if we're an ACOA, adult child of an alcoholic, alcoholism is a very narcissistic disease, and so it functions much like a narcissistic personality disorder, but it comes from a different cause, the use of alcohol and the addiction to alcohol. So since we lack a self, then we must quickly find some way to borrow self. And we start out finding ourselves by borrowing a self from others. Recovery groups, adult child of alcoholics groups, CODA groups, codependent anonymous groups, support groups, therapy groups, the adult child of narcissistic groups, there are a few around. Also Al-Anon is another good place to begin to find yourself, because that's where we have to start, is to quickly and immediately start working on self. And so we want to start to borrow one. We also can find a self-therapist or a counselor that we trust, who will begin to support us in our self-journey and focusing on ourselves. Because when we've been in the web of the narcissist and within the orbit of the narcissist, all of our focus has been around them. And the person it hasn't been around is around us. I would also suggest no contact with the flying monkeys, that you withhold that communication interaction with those whom the narcissist will send out to try and persuade you to come back, or to convince you, or to encourage your cognitive dissonance, meaning I don't know whether I should stay, I don't know whether I should go, and I feel caught in that dissonance. And the flying monkeys will come out and say, no, 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 you're the one that's crazy, not the narcissist. No, it's not your mother, it's you. You know, why do you give mom such a hard time? Well, mom's the narcissist. And then all the siblings come out and they're all telling you, no, 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 it's you. So we reduce our contact with the flying monkeys. I would suggest reading such as Psychopath Free book, Codependent No More. I would devour videos on sense of self, growing in a sense of self, overcoming codependency, and lack of self. There are lots of videos out there that can be of help to you. And I would devour them. I would put as much time focusing on self as we focus on the narcissist. And that's really hard because we don't realize how much time we've spent focusing on the narcissist. Be sure to reject your false feelings early on when we're trying to lose the narcissist. When I say false feelings, I'm talking about the feelings that come from childhood and come from the narcissist, such as the fog, you know, the obligation, guilt, failure, where we have false guilt, false failure, false obligation. And oftentimes if someone's been in a relationship with a narcissist, those are the main feelings they're feeling. What they don't realize is those feelings aren't real. Please understand me, I understand you're really having them, but they are not based on reality. They are based on fear, they are based on an unhealthy view of relationships, and they're based on our past from our family of origin. So they're kind of systems feelings. They're not my genuine feelings. They're feelings imposed on me from my emotional dynamics that I've been involved with over the years. Trust your goal, don't trust your false feelings. The goal is to find yourself. Also, stop rejecting yourself. Stop abandoning yourself. Often we fear abandonment, we fear rejection because we do that to ourselves. Once we overcome our self-fear, self-abandonment, self-rejection, once we begin to love ourselves, we don't fear the rejection and abandonment of others. So that's where we begin to stop not taking care of ourselves. Make us a priority. Make you a priority. So, again, focus on you and only you, not on the narcissist. Think of the enmeshment emotionally that you have with the narcissist early on in your beginnings to disconnect from them. Think of your enmeshment as an addiction, because enmeshment is an addiction. It's our drug of choice. It's the alcohol, the cocaine we keep going back for. I need that enmeshment. If I'm not enmeshed with the narcissist, then who am I? And remember, it is your drug of choice. The narcissist is addicted to their supply, that is to me. We're addicted to supplying their supply. And so we have that trauma bonding with them. And so we want to see it as something that is cunning, baffling, and powerful, as Alcoholics Anonymous says. That enmeshment is cunning, baffling, and powerful. And we want to begin to see that connectedness as our addiction, not as a healthy, loving relationship. Stop over-functioning. Start under-functioning. Function with regard to yourself, but under-function with regard to the narcissist and those around them. Often we have over-functioned, paid for this, paid for that, absorbed and taken up all of their pain and struggles and difficulties that they've had. We pay and pay and pay for the narcissistic connection with us and for that narcissist relationship. During this phase, we make a determination we're going to stop over-functioning. We're going to, and if anything, under-function. If you've over-functioned, then you under-function, then you can come back to a balance. But the first is begin to under-function. No, I can't do that. I don't want to do that. I'm not able to do that. And help and have support from those people you're borrowing self from, your supportive friends, your supportive groups, who will support you in you saying no. Realize that it is okay to let's see what. Oh, now I know. Realize that it's okay to break your promises. Many times, people who are in relationship with narcissists will feel guilty. Well, I promised them this. I promised them I'd do that. If I cut off from the narcissist, then I won't keep all of my promises. Remember, you've made your promises while under the influence. If someone came to you and they were absolutely drunk and said, hey, I'll take you to Miami Beach, and I'm fortunate to be down here in Miami South Beach during this week, and if somebody promises that they'll take you to Miami Beach while drunk, and then you come back to them and you say, well, hey, you're going to take me to Miami Beach, aren't you, Bob? And Bob goes, what are you talking about? And, oh, that's right, you were drunk, so I guess we probably aren't going to Miami. No, we're not. And we understand that if you're under the influence, you make bad promises. You overfunction. You overpromise. And so I believe it's okay to break those promises while made under the influence of a narcissist or made under the influence of enmeshment, emotional enmeshment. And remember, consider you are under the influence. I would consider also in the first 10 days you might want to think about treatment. Many have experienced PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. Many have experienced depression, pain, trauma, codependency, and sometimes for many it could be very helpful to go into treatment, even inpatient treatment, to get away and to find yourself in an emergency way. I know one site that we have used, it's called On Site, and it's down in Nashville, Tennessee. That's a treatment facility that would help with codependency and trauma and those kinds of things. Also, don't believe any change, don't believe in the narcissistic hibernation, and don't believe love bombing during this period. When love bombing happens, hey, I love you, I don't know why you're upset, I'm so sorry you're unhappy, it was all my fault. Don't believe that. Don't believe hibernation, where all of a sudden they become wonderful and not the narcissist. That's where their narcissism has gone into hibernation. And don't believe the change that you see. Real change does not happen for a year. That's one of the things when I used to help folks in inpatient treatment for alcohol and drug abuse, and they would say, wives would come in, and I would treat the family members who come in for the alcoholic and addict, and they would say, hey, well, when do we know they've really changed? And the rule is always, at a year, you've got a good hope that there's really change happening. And that's what I tell folks when they're going to say, well, you've really messed up my life, you've been into drugs or alcohol, or you promised this or you promised that, and you don't keep your promises. If you can do that for a year, then we can maybe be out of the woods. But it's very hard for people to stay true and to not be that toxic self for a year. If they can, they just might be changing. Trust your experience with the narcissist. Trust your story. You are a war victim. It's hard to tell other people many times because they don't believe us, or they don't believe what we're saying. I remember when I dealt with, as a pastor, a narcissistic couple, a very wounded narcissistic couple, and I would tell other people this is how they were being, and they just couldn't believe it. They go, oh, Jerry, I think you're just misreading. I wasn't misreading anything. And I remember having that cognitive dissonance of, are they crazy or am I crazy? Who's crazy here? Because one of us has got to be crazy. And then one night I remember sitting on my bed going, I'm not crazy. It's them. And that was a huge, huge beginning for me to change in trusting that I know I was not seeing things. And no matter what anybody said, I knew what I knew. Another point would be it can be useful to not try to sort out all of your cognitive dissonance. In other words, those I'm thinking both one way and another way at the same time. Don't try to work those out with the narcissist. You're not going to get anywhere. The best thing to stay with the narcissist is just confused. Well, why don't you come back to me? I'm being real nice right now and we could have a good relationship. See, I'm sorry I hurt you. The best mental state to stay in is confused and on your goal to find yourself. I hear what you're saying, Bill, Mary, I hear what you're saying, but I'm confused right now and I'm going to stay confused right now, thank you. And I will continue staying confused until I get things cleared up. But you telling me things is not going to clear that up. Also, we want to stop minimizing and stop rationalizing that things are not that bad. I don't know how long I used to put in that process, especially like this couple that I had when I was a pastor. And over again I say, well, it's not that bad. I mean, they do this or they do that. But it really was very toxic. It was toxic for the church. It was toxic for me. It caused a lot of emotional pain and drama. And I would minimize it and rationalize it. Whenever we are with the narcissist, we do tend to do that because we do tend to give folks and give people around us a break. With a narcissist, it's very dangerous to give them a break. And if we know what we know, stay with what you know. Believe what you know. Believe what you've seen. Believe how they've betrayed you. Believe how they've been angry with you. Believe how they've been non-empathetic. How they've focused on themselves. How they've been angry over nothing. How they desire you to be a certain way and to shape you into being the person they want you to be. Believe that and believe it. And find some professionals and find some friends who will believe you. Also, remember, you are operating out of a pseudo-self. The narcissist is operating out of a pseudo-self, a not real self, and so are we. They are because they have narcissistic personality disorder. We are doing it because we have selflessness, we don't have self, and we are codependent. We've probably never known ourselves, and so we operate out of a pseudo-self. In other words, I'll be or do whatever you need me to be or do to make people happy. That's a pseudo-self. I'm always scanning and make sure that I'm keeping the image right. I'm not doing it because I want to or I believe, or it's because those aren't important. My wants, needs, beliefs, values, opinions are not important. I just need to live in a way that everybody else likes me. That's a pseudo-self. That's not an authentic, real self. So remember, you're going to be operating out a pseudo-self for a while. You need to be with people who can be supportive of you during this vulnerable stage while you're beginning to back out of the pseudo-self and finding a real self. There are many more things that I could share with you about losing a narcissist in 10 days. And I'd be happy to work with you. You can contact me at the telephone and the email address that I have on the screen. I've got 120 some videos on YouTube. Whether you live in Los Angeles or Miami Beach or the Midwest or in any country around the world in which you have internet connection, I work with individuals, couples, even families, to help them in their recovery and finding a sense of self. That is my expertise. I really want to thank you for watching today. I hope this video was a help to you, and have a great day. Hi everybody. My name is Jerry Wise, and I'm a life and relationship coach. I've been helping people for 45 years and helping them go beyond the minimal recovery into a deeper, real change recovery. This video is part 2 of the Narcissistic Family Rules. And this is about recovery from narcissistic family rules. And this is rule 4 through 6. I hope that you will go and watch that video. Did I grow up in a narcissistic family? This is a follow-up video. And the follow-up video is, how do we begin to overcome those? And I want to give you some tips and what direction you can go with these rules. These rules demonstrate how the narcissistic family operates. But these are truly windows for recovery. When we can identify the problem, we can identify the recovery mode and direction we want to go, and how we can strategize that deprogramming that we have had. I want to thank Julie Harris and her book, The Narcissist in Your Life. She writes an excellent book, and I really would recommend you to purchase that and to read it. Continuing on, rule number 4 is mistakes are shameful in the narcissistic family. And you may have become aware of that if you grew up in a narcissistic family. We want to explore our humanity. Mistakes are human. Mistakes often are poor judgment or lack of knowledge. Even sometimes they could have bad motives. I mean, all humans have bad motives sometime, and that's human. In a narcissistic family, none of those are okay. And so what we want to do is begin to open ourselves up to someone who we can be more close to and feel safe with, and setting and finding a safe space for us to begin to talk about our mistakes and our humanity, whether a therapist or a coach. I really think that's why the 12-step groups have step number 4, where we talk about those mistakes and problems and difficulties that we've caused in the past as a result of our life. And they do that so that the recovering person can identify, share, and deal with their mistakes and failures in a non-shameful way. Because in a narcissistic family, it's all covered in shame and guilt. So, how do I give up the shame or the judgment of myself? And I have people ask me that all the time. How can I stop doing that? Well, if you can't stop doing it, then you may think about, maybe I'm not ready to stop doing it. Because there's no special formula for doing it. It's the process of I'm ready to begin to give up the judgment of myself. Even though I have feelings or thoughts about that, I'm going to begin to resist that. And it's okay to begin to accept yourself even if you're not ready. And there's no shame in not being ready. Love the I'm not ready yet part of us. Maybe we're 49% ready, but 50%, 51% not ready. That's okay, because it's still the beginning of self-acceptance. And self-acceptance is what's so important for mistakes and failures that we've had in our life. And I've had many. And some of them I'm not proud of at all. But I don't want to live under the shame, punishment, and negative critique of myself that keeps me in my jail forever. And we can explore, what are the downsides of letting go of the shame? What are the downsides of forgiving yourself? And, some people say, well, then I would feel worthy. Ooh, and that's scary. Or they might also say a downside might be, then I would be selfish, or I wouldn't be the good Christian person I want to be, or good spiritual person I want to be if I don't keep this shame, guilt, and negative criticism of myself going. I might be prideful. I might be haughty. I might probably you'd have a tough time doing that given your past. If you've been codependent, and you're probably not going to swing to the other side by forgiving yourself, swinging all the way over to narcissism. You're probably not going to do that. And this shame that we continue to experience from our family of origin is internalized, and it continues to punish us and keeps us in our jail. That we have a hard time, which is interesting because we have the jail. We hold the key, but we keep shaking the door wanting to get out. But the key is within us now as adults. We can use that key and open up the door when you're ready to do that. We have to be ready. It has to be intentional. It needs to be a choice. That I have to start somewhere. Didn't say it was easy. Didn't say all those thoughts and feelings would all go away in a day. But at some point, we have to start walking up that hill and going, wait a minute, I'm not going to stay down here in the valley. This is ridiculous. I am human. I was young. I was foolish. I said some things when I was growing up that I wish I hadn't said. My mom keeps reminding me of them. My dad keeps bringing them up. Well, they can't get over them, but it doesn't mean you can't. And you can't wait for them to get over it because they're going to keep shaming you and keep shame shedding, and they're going to keep the focus on you. Mistakes in a narcissistic family are a distraction for the narcissist. Then it's a shame-shedding event. And so the focus goes on your faults, your mistakes. None of their mistakes or faults matter, or failures. And I like to use the frame, they shed, we internalize. And so what we want to do is to begin to shed our shame, shed our guilt, and begin to let go of that and trust ourselves and accept ourselves that we are good people, can be good people, and actually I don't want to be selfish. I'm not planning on being selfish, not planning on being prideful. I'm just going to no longer live under those in that jail of I have made mistakes in the past. I don't want to live in that jail. I don't care how much you will never let it go. Because if you can't let it go, that's your problem, not my problem. If mom and dad, brothers and sisters can't let it go, that's not your problem. Your problem is you letting it go. But it does take some courage because it will mean we'll operate differently in the system. Well, when you did that, when you said that to me, that hurt me so badly. Of course, that's 15 years ago. And I would go, well, I've done pretty well getting over that. I hope you will too. There are things we can do to self-differentiate when someone's wanting to blame and shame us. One thing to remember, you are not your mistakes. You aren't your mistakes. Mistakes are things that you have done or failures you have accomplished or failed at. But that is not you. That is something that has happened, something you have done. There is a healthy shame. And I just want to explain, healthy shame is being aware that you hurt someone. But it's not who you are as a person. But it's a bad choice or bad judgment. Or maybe inappropriate words or hurtful words. Healthy shame comes when you've really kind of hurt somebody. And I want to feel shame when that happens. That's okay. That's a normal thing. People do matter. But feeling shame for the next 25 years is not healthy. That's a toxic shame. And I've told people, and I've gone to them and said, I'm really embarrassed at what I said, and I really want to apologize. I know that was hurtful, and who knows why I said it. I could maybe figure that out with a coach or a therapist, but I was wrong. And I just want to tell you that. And that I did feel shame around that. Because you don't deserve to be hurt. I don't want to be hurt. Rule number 5. You must always take sides. That's a narcissistic family rule. You have to take a side. And that's where you must always be in triangles and emotional triangles in a narcissistic family. There is no room for differentiation. There is no room for self or I'm not involved in this. There is no room for that. We are all clumped together under a big super self. And so there is no, you must always take a side. And all are enmeshed either with the narcissists or with those who are more insightful or scapegoats or those who have more awareness. There's both of those camps often in a narcissistic family, and you have to choose what side you're going to be on. If you choose the narcissist side, you get all the perks of doing that. If you choose the scapegoat side, then you're going to be in for punishment growing up. Well, now we're adults. We don't always have to take sides. And I don't have to involve myself in triangles. And I can choose my side, which may not be A or B. Maybe there's a C side that's mine. That's letter C. Or no side. I'm not taking any side in it. I don't know. I don't want to take a side in it. In a narcissistic family, neutrality equals abandonment, rejection, or criticism from the narcissist or the family. Better not be neutral. Well, neutral is not even permitted. I mean, neutrality is not even allowed. So we didn't learn much about neutrality growing up. In a narcissistic family, your monkeys, your circus, are my monkeys and my circus. And of course, as adults, no, that's not true. But growing up, it always was true. None of my business is never displayed unless the narcissist is ghosting you or some other crazy relationship move that they might make in that way. But none of my business is not, and it could be none of my business if I don't want to be involved and I don't care about you. Then it could be none of my business from the narcissist. But you're not permitted to have a none of my business attitude. And everyone triangles, so everybody's business is everybody's business all the time. And we grow up with that. Now we have a new way to be as adults. I can be neutral. I don't have to be in triangles. And that neutrality is very important. And maybe you won't like my neutrality, but my neutrality doesn't mean I don't like you or that I'm not for you. Maybe I'm going to be for both of you. What happens when a divorced couple get a divorce? And that's where we feel that, okay, you got to make a choice. Why have I got to make a choice? They're getting a divorce. I'm not divorcing them. And so, well, I don't want you talking to my husband now that he's divorced me. I don't want you talking to my wife now that... Well, wait a minute. When you were together, it was okay if we all talked. And now all of a sudden you want me to get in the middle of the triangle here between you and her, or her and him, you and him. And no, I'm not going to do that. Now, the relationship that I have with each of you may begin to develop in a certain way that I gravitate more towards one or the other, or I stay neutral with both. But I want that to be organic, not somebody going, you need to do this now that I'm divorcing. No, it's your divorce. It's not my divorce. And I had a relationship with her. I had a relationship with him, with you both. You don't get to police who I talk to. Well, I just won't appreciate that very much if you go talk to my ex-wife. Well, okay, you can not appreciate that if you want. But what you're asking me to do is immature. And I don't take kindly to being asked to be immature. I know you're hurting and you're saying that because you're hurt, but don't ask me to be immature so you'll feel better or more safe or more, I'm not gonna, that's not how I operate. And I value you as a friend and I have valued her as well. So I'm not going to take that role. Now things may roll out where maybe the guy friendship will fall off and the ex-wife relationship will be just fine and cordial. But again, in a narcissistic family, everything is everybody's business. Every issue involves everyone. Much like if you get a divorce. Okay, well, this is not just our divorce. This is everybody's divorce. And so I got to go tell everybody, don't talk to her, don't talk to him. Now you're making what's your monkeys and your circus, now my monkeys and my circus. It's not. And that will be a burden to carry. Oh, I'm sorry, Mary, I can't talk to you because Bill said he wouldn't like me if I talked to you anymore. And I'm not going to take any more of your calls. What? That's an immature. I'm a grown man. I don't need to be told who I'm going to talk to and who I'm not. No, you don't get to do that. You can make a request if you want. I mean, they can ask, but that's not the same as you must. I really would like it if you wouldn't talk. Well, I'm sure that you would, knowing how you're feeling right now. But in the long run, that's not how I'm going to live and operate with relationships or with a couple I've cared for both of them and they're getting a divorce. That's not how I operate. And if that makes me bad, then I guess then you've made your decision. And okay, you can make your decision. But I'm not doing the triangles and everybody's business is not my business. Knowing where you end and where they begin requires you to choose and know where it's not my circus, not my monkeys. And we can do some things as adults now in recovery. Number one, I can take both sides. I think you're both right. I think you're both wrong. In terms of the divorced couple that's divorcing or whatever, you're both right and you're both wrong. I'm quite sure of that. I've worked with couples divorcing for 100 years now. And, usually it's not just one-sided. That doesn't mean there aren't bad marriages or bad actors in marriages. I know, and there can be narcissistic marriages. It can be one-sided. But if they just tend to be friends of mine and just good old neurotic friends of mine, hey, I'm sure both of you had a hand in this. And more than likely, you had your part, they had their part. And I'm not justifying anybody's part. Yeah, but he used to be really mad. Sure he was. I'm not approving that. I'm not validating that and going, oh, I'm glad he did that. No, I'm not glad he did that. So we can take both sides. We can take, if a narcissistic mom is talking to you about a sister and wanting you to get on board with her and not like your sister, well, Mom, that's how you feel. I'm sure Susie feels another way, and I understand that. It sounds like something you should work out, not I should take sides. You need to work that out or not work it out. You don't have to have a relationship with each other if you don't want to, but that's for you to do. Or we can go gray rock when someone wants to dump their monkeys and circus off with you, being being unknowledgeable, being uninteresting, playing dumb. I don't understand the issue. Well, in fact, and I even say, I don't know enough about your marriage to even take those kind of sides. I wasn't with you all 27 years. I don't know what, I have whatever I saw or whatever, but I don't know what's going on in your marriage. And don't assume that I do or that I should. And then I'll also talk, well, I don't understand the issue. When someone comes to me with a political issue, do you like Biden? Do you like Trump? Do you like who knows, whoever? Russia, America, all the issues that are going on today. Everybody's got opinions about them. I have a degree in political science. I can talk politics, but I'm not going to talk to evangelize or to be evangelized in the political realm. I'm not going to defend myself. I'm not going to have to be on your side. And more than likely, the truth is probably somewhere in the middle. It's probably not A or B. And so, I really try to stay out of that. Because it doesn't go anywhere. It's not helpful. And it usually most of it is about feel-think. People are feeling, then they're thinking, and then they're trying to get everybody on board or reaffirm their own views, trying to talk other people into things. But that's feel-think. That's not adult think. That's feel-think. Emotions are propelling my confronting you and propelling this argument. Well, if it's emotions that's doing that, we can do all the talking in the world and never get to the basic emotions of it. And many times it is emotional, not thoughtful. Because I could talk about, well, hey, there's some science that says this is it. They're not interested in science. They're not interested in facts. This is what I believe, and I want to convince you this is the right thing. Well, you're free to believe that, but that's your monkey and your circus. I'm going to love you anyway, and you can love me anyway. And, well, you need to be more up on what's going on, Jerry. No, I'm up on what's going on just the right amount. Just the right amount. For me, maybe you are all up on it. That's fine, but I'm up on things just the right amount. Rule number 6, there is never enough love and respect to go around. And growing up in a narcissistic family, and none of this can be provided by me or for me. I'm programmed to not access self-soothing, self-love, and self-respect. Of course, that's a myth, but that is what I grew up learning. That there's never enough to go around, and it only comes from external sources. It can't come from me. And then we see the narcissistic family or the narcissist playing favorites, finding scapegoats. There's never enough affirmation, love, or respect to go around. And we're programmed with that withholding love, respect, and approval. And if we don't get that as children, as adult children of narcissists, then we spend the rest of our lives looking for it, yearning for it, trying to find it, trying to get it, unless we recover and begin a process of recovery. And the process of recovery is about me sourcing me, not getting everything from others. And we adopt that. There's a never enough for me belief. And many people over the years, as well as myself, there's never enough. I can never be loved enough. I can never be accepted enough because there's only just little droplets out there for me, just little, or the banquet table, I just get the crumbs. I never get the banquet. It's all I get is the crumbs because there's not enough. We want to go for abundance. We want to reverse that rule and go for abundance. And you say, Jerry, well, I don't have abundance all around me. I don't have 50 friends who just celebrate me and love me. I don't have people that care about my family's a mess. They don't care about me. They give me a hard time. No, I understand, but we want to go for the abundance, and the abundance inside with supportive others, a therapist, a coach, a sponsor, a group. That abundance is out there. It's only a myth that we believe it's not. It is out there, but we've been taught it's not. And there is abundance. And in fact, there's abundance of self-love whenever you're ready. And then I work with people to help them get ready and to help them do it and to find it. So it's okay to not be ready. There's no shame in that. But we do want to overcome that I'm not ready to love myself. And if you need help, give us a call. Look at the website. We have people that can help you do that. I would recommend the book Self-Compassion by Kristen Neff, N-E-F-F, Inner Bonding by Margaret Paul, and there's many inner child books out there. We must begin to provide it for ourselves. Now, you say, well, Jerry, that just sounds so easy. No, it's not. I remember how difficult that was. And I also remember the time when I'm going, well, am I going to do this or am I not? Am I going to love myself? But I really don't like myself. And I really think I'm bad. And I really think I'm worthless. And are you really? I don't know that I want to love myself. So we have to struggle with loving ourselves. But the tap is there that we can turn on the valve and self-love can flow. We just keep the valve off, and we've been taught to don't go near that valve. Don't even go near that. And there's a reason why. If you do, you're going to be a bad person in a narcissistic family. And you'll probably get in trouble and be punished. Provide it for yourself. Love and respect from others becomes the icing on the cake. It's not the cake, it's the icing on the cake. And I think the level of self-love you have is equivalent to the level of love you can give to others. Now, I'm a codependent from way back, and I would have said, oh, no, that's not true. I give love to everybody, but I don't love myself. Well, you're giving love to everybody to try to be filled up as a codependent. That's not the purest, healthiest love. And so love and, that it starts with us, and then we can give true love to other people without the motives of I need to be filled up. And we end up controlling other people by our goodness, our overfunctioning, our codependency, and to feel better. Well, is love about me giving to you so I just feel better? No, I think there's even a higher level than love than that. As children, learning to love ourselves does start with others. Others will love us so that we will love ourselves. And that's the process of nurturing and caring for children. But as adults, it starts with self. You can't start with others when you're an adult. You have to start with self. And that's where we want the intentional, chosen self-love. I hope this has been a help to you today. I hope you'll join, subscribe, comment on here. We've been trying to comment on many people's comments that they put on the YouTube. You can join on the YouTube channel. Visit my website, jerrywiserelationshipsystems.com. And if you want to work with one of us, you can find that information out on the website. I do want to thank you so much for joining me today, and have a great day, and be wise. Hey, hi, everybody. My name is Jerry Wise, and I want to ask you, does your spouse or your partner have a dysfunctional family? And do you know what to do if that's the case? Today, I want to talk about that briefly. First of all, there are so many different types of dysfunctional families, as you well may imagine. Smothering and enmeshed families, controlling, critical and argumentative families, cutoff families, abusive families, delusional and distortive families, families who just make things up out of whole cloth, families who distort what's being said and done and what they see. There are volatile families or moody families where you never know who you're going to get when you get together or when you call them or when you never know what mood they're going to be in. There are bigoted, racist, non-accepting, and families full of prejudice. And maybe that has affected you as well. Because not always do we marry someone our family is really thrilled with. Whether they are of a different religion, a different skin color, a different background, that can all be problematic, and there can be prejudice and racism and non-accepting going on within spouses' families. Then there are the alcoholic and drug addicted families. Those are not easy to deal with either. And what do we do? In all of these types of families, and even other types of families, you can talk with someone, and I would recommend getting some help from a coach or a therapist. You can talk about the distinct kinds of problems that may come up with those specific types of dysfunctions. However, there are some universal things that I want to share with you today that kind of fall in the category of whatever type of dysfunctional family. These are some things to remember to do. And if you'd like to learn more about those and go into greater depth, I have an online program listed below in the description that you can go to and check out. There's also an online training that's free that's down there as well. So there's a couple links you can check out if you'd like to know more, learn more, and know how to deal with these things more effectively. So given there's so many different types of families out there, first of all, we want to remember that we will need to probably be setting boundaries with the in-laws and maybe even with our spouses or with our partners. That boundaries are very important. And you may want to learn about boundaries more. There's some great books out there on boundaries. My online program has a whole segment on boundaries, both internal boundaries and external boundaries. And what I've found in some of the boundary books is they don't talk about both. They either only talk about external, and then they kind of vaguely talk about internal boundaries. But we need internal and external boundaries. So we will need to be setting some boundaries with partner or spouse and the in-laws in an appropriate way so that we can be adults and mature with our in-laws. And that we can remain adult and mature whether they do or not. And that's very important for us. Also, we will want to decide what type of relationship I want to have with these in-laws, particularly if they're dysfunctional. What kind of relationship do I want to have? And it's okay to ask that question, only I tell people, given exactly how they are now, what type of relationship would you like to have with them? Not what type of pie-in-the-sky relationship would you want to have with them, or what type of relationship you'd like to have with them if they were different. No, the way they are right now, what type of relationship would you like to have with them? And that's the best question, I think, to ask. And the same is true for you and your partner. You can talk to your partner or your spouse about, well, what kind of relationship do we want to have with your family and with your parents? That's not just based on family expectations, family rules, the family super self, meaning how you're supposed to behave in the family, because then it's just an extension of our childhood into our adulthood. I'm an adult. I'm not a child anymore. I don't have to go to that holiday on that day. I don't have to do that anymore. if I don't want to? And what kind of relationship do I want to have? And if you're going to be setting some boundaries, you need some help. Check out help with a coach or therapist. I have coaches, or you can work with me. You can check online, and we'd be happy to meet with you and help you with those things. So we have to decide what kind of relationship we want to have with them, whatever their dysfunction, from drug addiction all the way to just good old and neurotic and anxious, and there's a whole continuum all the way from somebody who's just kind of a pain to somebody who is malignantly toxic. So there's a whole continuum. And I'm sharing with you some general advice that would apply to all the continuum. Then there'd be some unique advice depending upon where families land on that continuum. I think it's important we remember, we married our spouses. We also kind of married his family or her family. Now, that doesn't mean all bets are off. That doesn't mean if I marry your family as well in some way, it doesn't exclude being respected. It doesn't exclude me having a self. That's not what being married to your family means. It just means we have some shared life with your family. But that doesn't mean I can be treated any old way, any old time. Particularly if a partner or spouse is very, very heavily connected with their family, then it's an awful lot to expect them to just cut all that off. And if it's problematic and they don't see it, then you need to get some help for yourselves as a couple. And again, there is some shared life with that, whether we like it or not, whether we don't want it or do want it. That comes with the package, because a family has a super self and an emotional process or an emotional Wi-Fi that's going out. And if you marry into that, you're going to be affected by that emotional Wi-Fi, is what I'm saying. And that we discuss a lot more in the online program. Don't try to change your partner or spouse's family. And certainly don't try to do it without the support of your partner. They should probably take the lead. The blood child should, I think, be the point man on addressing their family. If my mother is giving my wife a hard time and is just being unreasonable, and Susan or Mary or whoever is complaining to me about it, and it's just not appropriate, then I might go to my mother and say, Mom, we're on the same team, my wife and I, and that's not okay, and you need to stop doing that. You really need to stop doing that, and you're hearing that from your son, who is your biological son. Now, I'm not saying spouses can't stand up for themselves. They can. And if Susan or Mary, whoever I'm married to, wants to address my mother about that, they can. And hopefully my mother will take it and will take it in and use that information. If she doesn't, then I think it's good for the blood relative to step in. The wife with her family, the husband with his family. Because I think there's in some ways almost a stronger voice, and then there's less likely they're going to scapegoat the partner. Oh, well, Mary's just a troublemaker. Our son, Jerry, is so wonderful. But Mary came and talked to me about, oh, no, I don't want that. I'm going to talk to you, Mom. I can be the scapegoat, not her. You can blame me. That's perfectly fine. So, and don't try to change your partner's family. It usually doesn't work very well anyway, because otherwise you will be scapegoated, you'll be blamed, and probably ostracized, because that happens so frequently when we do that. And we particularly have that problem if your spouse or your partner is not on the same page with you and there's not unity. So if a spouse or partner has a dysfunctional family, you have to get that unity going with the two of you. Otherwise, the family will overwhelm your unity. And we can talk more about that in other videos. So I would suggest getting a coach or getting a therapist. Don't try to go it alone if you can't come to some agreement with your partner. Talk with your partner about the problems and about the expectations. Hey, honey, hey, Don, what do you expect from me with your family? This is how your family kind of treats me. What do you expect from me? And what expectations do you have for your family and how they treat me? And here are some of the problems that I've seen. Can we work through those or talk about those, Don? Remember that you and your partner have choices. You can go full contact with the dysfunctional family with boundaries or healthy boundaries. You can go low contact. You can go no contact with an emergency plan. If somebody were to get sick or someone goes to the hospital or whatever, they could let you know. Or some people go full no contact and they don't want to hear anything no matter what happens. There's such toxicity here. It doesn't matter what happens in the family. It's unfortunate, but that if they're on this end of the continuum down here, very, very toxic, there are people like, I don't want to have any. I don't care what goes on, because then we're going to pretend to be normal within a very abnormal family. Oh, well, you don't want to know if your father passes away? Well, under normal circumstances, I would. And I think most people would like to know if their father passed away. But there are circumstances in which it may not matter one bit. Maybe that father has been extremely abusive, manipulative, narcissistic, mean, hurtful. Then it's like, do I really care? And I don't have to care. Even though society thinks I'm bad for not caring, walk in my shoes and then you decide whether you would care or not. Don't talk to me about your rules for your family, because you may not have a family that's anything like mine. So, many people think, well, just do the normal rules. Don't do normal rules for abnormal families. It doesn't work. Also, avoid family triangles. It's very easy to get caught up in triangles. Mom-in-law talks to daughter-in-law about the spouse or husband. That can be a problem. Mom talks to son about the wife. That can be a problem. Sister talks to brother about the wife, in-law. That we have all these triangles that can go on, and we want to avoid those triangles. So if I'm the blood relative, the blood family, and they come to me and say, oh, we need to talk to you about, Mary. Well, what seems to be the problem? I mean, why are you coming to me? Oh, well, she just said something really mean to Sister Madeline. Okay. Did you think Madeline maybe should go and talk to Mary? Don't you think that? I think that would be a better approach than me going to Mary. Because if I go to Mary, she's going to know exactly where this came from. It's not coming from me. She's going to know I talked to you about it. And that's not going to help the dynamics. So I think it's better if we have one-on-one communication, if at all possible. And if we can't, then maybe we need a therapist, maybe we need a coach to help us with that. It is certainly okay to stand up for yourself with the in-laws. But we stand up for ourselves to protect ourselves, not to change them. Certainly we can ask them if I would rather you not do that. I don't like it when you call me a little baby. I don't like that. Please don't do that. But if they continue to do it, then I can stand up for myself and say, well, if you're going to continue to do that, then I am probably going to have to withdraw more. I'm going to have to be more detached because I'm not going to take that. And that's unfortunate because I thought we could have a better relationship. So it's okay to stand up for yourself, but it's very difficult to go in there and try to change someone else. I've been trying to change other people for 45 plus years. And what I've found is I have a lot more success if I bring me to the situation and let them decide how they want to be. That usually is a more powerful dynamic. I hope you found this video helpful. I want to introduce you to my new step-by-step program designed to help you break free from the toxic relationship dynamics in your family, to heal your relationships, and build the real self you were never allowed to have. I personally wish I would have had access to a program like this early in my own journey. This program is an investment in yourself, your relationships, your healing, and your life. To learn more about the program, click on the program link below provided in the description. I truly believe it will have a profound effect on your life. Hello, everyone. My name is Jerry Wise, and I'm a life and relationship coach. I've been helping people for many decades with self-differentiation, overcoming codependency, and other kinds of adult children issues. And I want to mention there's a workshop coming up on December 5th, 2020 on Saturday. I hope you'll sign up for that workshop. Go to the website under events, and you can sign up for that. Please join this and subscribe to this YouTube channel, and also join as a paid member. $1.99 helps us to provide these free videos to you. I'm very happy to have as a guest with me my associate, Yitz Goldberg. And we are continuing our series on the principles of self-differentiation. Hi, Yitz.
Hey, Jerry. I'm happy to be here again.
Great. Great. Would you like to jump into this principle?
Sure. Yeah.
I think it's number 7, if I'm not mistaken.
Today is number 7. Yeah. And this principle is called differentiation, is being clear about one's own personal values and boundaries. And when I think about this principle, the values and boundaries are two ends of self-differentiation. It's where you start, it's what's real for you inside, and what you communicate to people or to your family, to your friends, to your relationships, to the people around you. So yeah, this is a very interesting principle.
Well, and I think it's so important because it is self-differentiation, or maturity is a very self-defining work. And since it's a self-defining work, that means we have to define ourselves. You know, what do I believe? What do I value? What's important to me? Do I believe the earth is flat, or do I believe it's round? You know, because that will guide my life, depending upon what I believe. And then what do I do in the face of believing the earth is flat, but everyone else believes it's round? What am I going to do with that? You know, and how am I going to carry myself? And because I think so many times we think that when we become more mature, we then become correct or right about everything. Well, no, we can still be wrong about some things. But I like Adrian Van Kaem, who is a psychologist priest. And he did this wonderful series, and I used to love these books. They're not easy to read, but they are very insightful, integrating spirituality and psychology. And he talks and that was kind of one of my first introductions to kind of growing up or maturing, before I got into Murray Bowen family theory. And he said, one thing that adults do is that they begin to give up staying in the no man's land of no commitment.
I like that.
In other words, as adults, we start committing to something, even if it may not be perfect, even if it could be wrong.
but we don't stay in the area of just no commitment about anything because I don't know for sure. Well, we start by, well, what do we believe about that? It doesn't mean I can't grow or learn more. And I also had another professor talked about an educated and mature individual will hold loosely onto the things that they believe. You hold not too tightly. And what he meant by that is you may learn something more that may change how you see something. But he says you still hold on to them, but you be careful about how tightly you hold on to them. Because there again, if I hold on to tightly to that the world is flat, and I don't take in the other data, then I may believe the world is flat until I die. And that may be holding on to that belief too tightly. I may begin to learn about, as they send back pictures from space and show the world is round, I'm going, oh, well, maybe the world isn't flat.
Yeah. Yeah. And very often the values that we are committed to, because I think a lot of people are committed to certain values, a lot of times the values we're committed to, they're not ours. We were raised into them. We didn't give it any extra thought. We didn't, obviously we do some type of research growing up, but very often we never really question those values. And for me, this principle is allowing yourself to question your values, to question the values of your family, to question the values of your society, and trying to find what you could commit to, but that's yours and that's not theirs. And that is, it's not easy, because very often someone could come up or stand for something that's not popular, stand for something that's very different than what other people would stand for. But that is what this work is about, is standing for it because you believe that that's what you're supposed to stand for. And it doesn't matter what other people believe in or what other people want you to believe in.
Correct. And that is a powerful statement about, and I think of using a self filter on family beliefs and family values, that I want to use a self filter about that. Are these my beliefs or are they not? I can believe something my family taught me and not be differentiated. I can believe something my family taught me and be self-differentiated, because not only might I have different beliefs, but I may accept some of the beliefs my family did teach me, and they are mine. I do accept that, and but I don't accept beliefs that keep me in a particular role. And so my family may have valued being kind to other people. Well, I'm not going to go, well, I'm going to be self-differentiated, so I'm going to believe don't be kind to other people. No. But if I'm being kind to other people in the same way my family was doing it, now I'm more enmeshed with them and it's not my value. Maybe we're doing it to keep an image. Maybe we're doing it to earn our way to heaven. Maybe we're doing it, and so there may be some similar values we have, but am I still running it through the self filter? It's got to all go through my self filter. Is this Jerry, or is this just Jerry with groupthink or society think, or whatever think I might be connected to?
Yeah, I in other words, I could not believe the same values, but I could still be undifferentiated doing that. I could believe something different, but I will still be undifferentiated.
So it could go either way. I could believe something that the family believes and be undifferentiated or differentiated. I could not believe what the family believes and be undifferentiated or not differentiated. or differentiated. And the issue becomes, is this me? Is this mine? You know, have I sent it through that filter and it really is my belief? And for many of us, that's where a lot of the struggles come in with family of origin issues, particularly when we become adults, where now we have the challenge of beliefs and we go through a second adolescence. The first adolescence is we're trying to have, you know, the solid family that we push off or push away from to become ourselves. But then as we become adults, we have another opportunity to do that, because then there are expectations of us as adults, not as teenagers, but how you're supposed to function in the family as an adult now. Well, we may need to push off of that as well. You know, that, and then we'll talk about some of the troubles of doing that in later principles, when we define ourselves.
Yeah, when I think of defining our values, so I think about also the aloneness that comes with it, and often you talk about aloneness versus loneliness. And to define your values often means you're going to be standing alone. But when you understand that you're allowed to have different values and others are allowed to have different values than you have, then you don't necessarily feel lonely in that position.
Ooh, well said. Very well said. That is a great point. And that's, you're right. And that's where that self connecting with ourselves has a paradoxical way of us not feeling alone and being able to also, in some ways, connect with others too. Because if I never declare myself, if I never have values, if I don't know what I believe, who I am, and what I think, if I'm just a product of my family of origin and its thinking, if that's all I am, then I'm only going to be comfortable pretty much relating, connecting to my family or people who are like that. If I'm defining myself, I may find new people whom value my values, and I value their values.
And be okay with people that have different values without it needing some disconnection there.
Right. Can I connect with someone that we have differing values? Can I accept and connect with someone, or differing beliefs or differing principles? I mean, that's what we hope will happen on a political level in each of our countries, that good people will disagree. And that's a very tricky dynamic, as we have seen over the hundreds of years.
Yeah.
You know, that's a tough one.
Yeah. And it's also good to remember that often people's values could be immature values. So, well, also our own values could often be immature, but when I'm thinking, you mentioned the political situation and how often we could see other people's choices as being immature, regardless if they are immature or not.
Right.
But people are allowed to have immature values. And I have no right to take that away from them. Same like they have no right to take my values away from me.
Yeah, but yet they're just wrong.
That's true. They are wrong.
Shouldn't I do something about that?
They are wrong, but they are allowed to be wrong.
Right. And it also, I think, takes responsibility and owns the fact that, not maybe every one of my values and beliefs are all correct. There may be some wrong ones in there, or immature ones. And I hope someone is accepting of me as well in my wrongness. And I've certainly been wrong before. And we really care about those people who have winked at us and winked at our immaturity. And didn't shame us and guilt us and say, that's so stupid that you believe that. And, and sometimes families will do that. But it's more mature if we can accept others and their beliefs, right or wrong. But we're also accepting our limitations at the same time. I think self and those values and boundaries evolve from womb to adult. It's a lifetime of learning these things. You don't just wake up tomorrow and have all of your beliefs, values, principles all just lined out. But I think it is an intentional work that is good for us to do. When I come into conflict with my family, my spouse, my children, my whomever, friends, do I take that moment and look at, well, what do I believe? What is my belief? What are my principles? What do I value? And I had an example, and why I think values are so important, because when you read about Bowen family systems, there's a lot of talk about values and principles lead us away from blame. And a lot of times people I didn't understand that. What do you mean values lead you away from blame? Shoot, if I had more values, I'd blame more people for what they're, that's kind of the logical, and no, it actually leads us away from blame. Because when we focus on our values, our principles, then we allow them to be a separate person and we don't have to blame them. And we're also able to more freely look at our feedback loop and our part in the feedback loop. I had a client, let's call him Bill, had a very, very enmeshed family, very hyper-religious, very enmeshed. He's been working to detach and become a self versus being just the domino in his family. And and I mean, this family is incredibly enmeshed. Every week, every month, everything they do is family, 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 everything. And you are to attend. He's an adult, he's divorced, he has two younger children. And they assume that all family members attend all family weekly and monthly gatherings. And then some additional Bible studies on Zoom as well. So it's really just, it has driven him nuts since he was a kid, to the point he couldn't have friends. There was nothing you could do outside the family. There's just nothing outside the family was supported. And of course, as he detaches, they pursue relentlessly, to get him back and come back in the family. And I think that's where values versus blame and having differences versus anger and upsetness. Because if we don't have our own values, if we don't see our own differences, then we'll only be left with blame, anger, and upsetness. See what they're doing to me? Why don't they stop? When are they going to grow up? When are they going to get healthy? Rah, 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 rah. That's not somebody who has seen their own values and principles. If someone has their own values and principles, says, I don't choose to do this. You may choose to continue to do that. I don't need to change you, but I am not going to change that.
Their boundaries are clear.
Correct. Right. And there's more detachment. And so I don't have to blame them for how miserable they're making me, rather than respecting, what do I value? What do I believe? What kind of relationship do I want to have with the family? Not what does the family expect and require me to do.
And about what boundaries am I setting or not setting with those people. It's a self-differentiation journey. There's the reason why the word self is there. If we take out the word self, then we're left with differentiation, and then maybe we could force differentiation in other people. But it's self-differentiation, it's self-regulation, it's self-definition. It's about us, not about the other people that we're communicating with. It's about our ability to set those boundaries. It's our ability to understand our own values, to communicate them. It's about us. It's not about them.
And I think well, in the next principle, I'll probably continue on with that example, because I think it's also illustrative of the next principle we're going to be talking about. And I'm hoping that that example from that family will give us some more clarity about self-differentiation. But again, values, beliefs, convictions, principles does a lot to differentiate ourselves, disconnect ourselves in a healthy way, and reduces blaming, anger, and that feedback loop that we have in that relationship of fusion and enmeshment or whatever. And again, we're fighting back. If you know where you stand, you don't have to fight back, because if I can use that analogy, that doesn't mean we don't fight back sometimes in inappropriate ways, but you know where you stand, then you don't have to push everyone away. You then begin to live your life, set boundaries where they're not pushing you. That's and I want them to not be pushing me. And this family was pretty relentless, or unrelenting, or whatever the word is. They just continued and continued in every kind of way to make this happen. And it can be very maddening.
Yeah, there are definitely families that force the family values on the system and don't allow any form of being an individual inside the system. And then it's the struggle of finding our own values and creating our own values and questioning the system values, and while we're questioning, dealing with the anxiety and the tension that comes up from the system.
And and I think and it becomes a really huge struggle of differentiation at that point. But it's a worthwhile goal to work on that, because it's miserable to stay in it. It can be difficult or painful to continue to differentiate. I just figure if I'm going to be uncomfortable, I might as well be heading towards a positive goal than just stay in the discomfort of the groupthink or the pressure of the enmeshment that we have as a family, that I must do all these things. And then I'm resentful and mad, and and again, I will blame others. And again, so many times we blame others for what we are unwilling to stop. If that makes sense.
That's more than often the hard truth.
that we blame others for what we are unwilling to make stop. And we keep thinking, well, they should know to not do this. Well, whether they know to not do this or not, you're still responsible for, I don't want to do that, and put a period on the end of it. That's still our job. Their job, in their subjectivity, in their way of thinking, is to keep the family system going as it always has. Your job is to, out of that system, rise as a phoenix and become yourself, in spite of, and in opposition to the system, or at least in differentiation to the system. Maybe that's a better word. That we can be different.
Yeah. We should be different.
Yes, because we all are uniquely. And some families, a few of them value that uniqueness, and some families don't. Some families see that uniqueness as a threat and fearful because they have certain values of the way they think things should be.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to share about this today, Yitz?
Yes, I have two things. The first is actually a quote of you from before this call that says, it's out of our values that our boundaries come. You need some values to determine boundaries. And I just didn't want to let that slip through, because there's a lot of insight into that. And the other thing that I would like to close up, I guess, this principle is, when we have our own values and they are really ours, like meaning we've done the work of owning those values and standing for them, then we don't need others to understand, to agree, to accept our those values. We don't need to force our values on other people. They're ours. Other people could choose differently and value other things. We need, it's about allowing others have values and opinions that we don't agree with. That is sometimes something that could be hard. We could believe in something, and yet we don't understand how someone could have a value that doesn't go with ours. And it's what you stand for is not what others stand for. And I think that's just understanding as a basic, just as the basics of determining your own values and letting other people determine their own, is understanding that values is not about everyone agreeing to the same thing. It's about you believing what you believe in, and that's the end.
And then there's one last paradoxical part of that. If you want other people to change their values and beliefs, believe yours. Because then we're not actively trying to change them. We are being ourselves in the system with our values. That sends ripples through the system. But I'm not doing it to change other people's values. It's that intentional paradoxical work that when I am more myself, other people have room to become more themselves. When I become more connected to what I believe is true, other people have room in the system and space to become more aware of the truth or reality or whatever I believe is important. And that's I think a positive thing. Well, thank you for sharing.
Probably shouldn't be the goal.
No. That's a could be a
byproduct,
side effect, a byproduct, which I tell everyone. Because we oftentimes make that the goal. The neat thing about it is if you stop making it the goal, it can be a byproduct. That's the point. That's the point.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Yitz. I want to thank you all for joining us today. We've got another principle we're going to be talking about, and I hope you'll watch that video as well. This one is video 7 of the principles, and I hope you will join the YouTube channel. Click join, become a member for a small amount each month, helps support the videos that we do. And I want to thank Yitz for joining me today, and
thank you for having me.
Hope you guys have a great day and be wise.